Hello, thank you so much for joining us on Joy Asonye Live this beautiful evening here on KAFTAN Television. Today on the program, we are moving our conversation to Cross River State, where Prince Basio II, the APC gubernatorial candidate, emerged winner of the Cross River State elections just a couple of weeks back. And now we are talking about the elections. How did it go? And how are we setting agenda for the new administration that would be inclusive of women, youth, and all the citizens of Cross River State for the development they have longed for so long? We'll be discussing all of this with my guest, who is Okoi Obono-Obla. He is the chief spokesman, APC Cross River State Campaign Council. He's a legal practitioner and a traditional ruler. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you, Joy.
It's so good to have you join us here.
Nice to meet you too.
Right, so we'll go for a short break right now and return to discuss more. Stay with us. This is still Joy Asonye Live. Welcome back. Setting the agenda for the new administration in Cross River State. Like I said earlier, that's what we'll be discussing. And again, we have Okoi Obono-Obla, who is with us right now. Thank you again for joining us. Yeah. The elections, I mean, there were complaints, of course, about pockets of violence. Let's start there. What do you think? Just appraise the elections and the conduct of it for us. That might not have followed it very keenly. Yeah, was there as much violence?
I think it is the best so far, taking into account the fact that I have been participating, in elections in Cross River State from 1999, when the military returned back to the barracks. In 1999 I voted, 2003, 2007. 2011, 2015, 2019, and 2023, and this is the best. I can tell you that Cross River State was a multi-party democracy. In 1999, at least to 2003, when Donald Duke was the first governor, the House of Assembly was, the membership of the House of Assembly was multi-party. Mm-hmm. There were two leading political parties as at then, the People's Democratic Party and the defunct APP, All People's Party. Which later metamorphosed to AMPP, and then was part of parties that merged with other opposition parties to form APC. So we had 30 members from AMPP and 12 members in the 25-man house. We had 13 for APP, 12 for PDP. So it was balance. In the National Assembly election for 1999, we have 8 members from Cross River State in the House of Representatives. I think 5 of them came from AMPP, 3 from PDP. In the Senate, we had 2 senators from AMPP, mm-hmm. and 1 senator from, PDP. Right. The senator for PDP was Senator Kanu Agabi, SAN. Right. Yes. And then we had, for AMPP, we had Forrest Itagiwa for Southern Cross River State. Mm. And then we also, it was 1 AMPP, 2 PDP. The senator for Central in 1999 to 2003 was Matthew Mbu Jr. from Central District, where I come from. So you can see that there was a balance of power. And the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Cross River Assembly, was an APP guy, Dr. Gerard Dada. Then Donald Duke, wanted to consolidate. And there was crisis in the AMPP, or a crisis was instigated, and then they were now pushing the PDP government started pushing, you know, and a lot of people left AMPP and joined PDP. So in 2003, there was no opposition in Cross River State again. So from that time, the House was all PDP. From 2003, 2007, yes, and 2011. In 2011, the opposition elected one member, Chief Alex Irek from Obono-Obla 1 state constituency. Okay, so he was the only person in the opposition. In 2015, nobody from the opposition was elected. Okay, so in 2019, nobody from the opposition was elected. So, but this year, 19 APC members were elected into the House of Assembly. I think, and then 6 between Labour Party and PDP.
Exactly, 6.
Yes. So in the National Assembly election, APC won 2 Senate seats. Cross River State Southern Senatorial District went to APP. Then Central Senatorial District, where I come from, also went to APC, sorry. Then the only seat that went to PDP was Cross River State North. Then in the House of Reps, APC won 5 seats, Labour 1, and PDP 2. So that is what we had.
So it was a keenly contested election.
It was because it was the first time PDP was contesting as an opposition. From 1999, PDP has never contested any election as opposition. PDP has always contested as an incumbent government. So, and they have everything going for them. But you know what happened in 2021? May Governor Ayade defected to APC. Right. So that is it. Maybe it has also helped us, you know, to consolidate and strengthen APC from what APC used to be. Okay.
Now, so, would you say the defection affected Governor Ayade's bid, senatorial bid, because he lost out in his senatorial election?
Well, I don't want to go into, you know, that deeply into the reasons why he lost, because the matter is in court. He has gone to election tribunal.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't want to talk about a matter that is pending before the tribunal. But
that's
some
fair.
Local issues that may have been responsible for his failure. One of them is that the zoning of political positions was against some local interests. I'm just giving an example.
Okay.
Honorable Lego Idagbo, who is from Bekwara. Bekwara is one of the 5 local government areas that make up the Northern Senatorial District.
Right.
Yes. He was going for a 3rd term. He had represented Obaleku, Obudu, and Bekwara Federal Constituency, 3 local government areas. He's the incumbent representative. He's still a member of the National Assembly because the National Assembly is here to be dissolved. It will be dissolved in June 2023. So he was there first elected in 2015, and so he was going for a 3rd term. And he's from Bekwara. And the people from Obaleku thought that they deserve to be.
It's their time to have a representative.
Exactly. And somehow, you know, the APC didn't do that, work out his, you know, politics very well. So the people of Obaleku revolted, and they didn't quite vote for APC. They voted for PDP because the guy who is the House of Representative elect now is from Obaleku. So that's why I was saying some local political dynamics
yes, that came to play, because I would have really loved to ask, while the governor would say he succeeded in winning a successor back into power, in his own case, he's going to tribunal, and lots of people watching would ask, it's like, you're picking and choosing. I mean,
Well,
when you win, you don't complain. But as long as you do not feel you lose, you head to court. But let's not dwell too much on that and go back to the conduct of the elections. You know, I had asked how you find it. You have given us a clear picture as to the map, the political map in Cross River State.
Yes.
However, in the conduct of the elections and the way that the Independent National Electoral Commission conducted themselves, I mean, logistic problems, was it faced in Cross River State per se? Well,
let me just make this point before I go into your question. There was also this issue about power shifts. So I want you to understand the dynamics, what played out in the governorship elections. There was this issue of power shift, which was very contentious. When PDP took over power in 1999, the governor came from the Southern Senatorial District. Yeah, it's made up of Abiase, Akankpa, Odukpani, Akpabio, Calabar Municipality, Calabar South, and Bakassi. 7 local government areas make up Cross River State Central Senatorial District.
Right.
So Donald was there for 8 years, and he left 2007. And the next governor was Moke from Central. You know, the Central is made up of 6 local government areas: Abi, Yaka, Obobra, Etung, Boki, and Ikom.
Right.
So Imoke was there for 8 years, from 2007 to 2015. And then there was a clamor for power shifts to Northern Cross River State. And Imoke acceded to that request, you know.
And Ayade emerged.
And then Ayade emerged. Ayade will leave office 2023, 29th of May. So the people from Southern Senatorial District will clamor again, you know, that they want the next governor to come from, you know, Southern Senatorial District.
Which would be fair.
Exactly. APC, you know, considered that the next governor should come from the Southern Senatorial District. Otherwise, you are going to, you know, keep them away from the vortex of gubernatorial power for 24 years. And PDP mistakenly, you know,
did not take that into
cognition. Despite the fact that in the PDP constitution, there's a clear provision for power rotation.
Okay.
So somebody from Central, Senator Sandiono, who is the incumbent senator representing Central Senatorial District in the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he emerged as against the expectation of people from Southern Cross River State in PDP. So that's changed everything, and you know, and it worked against PDP drastically. The other issue you asked about was INEC logistics. See, every democracy has its challenges. The Nigerian democracy is very young. It's just 25 years. We have had uninterrupted democratic civil rules. And our institutions, including INEC, is yet to mature. Okay? The electorates also need maturity. The politicians need maturity. The stakeholders need maturity. So, taking that into account, I will say that we are not doing badly. That even in countries with established democracies, like the United States, democracy was introduced in 1776. It's over 300 years. Despite that, and they have strong institutions, the judiciary, the Congress, strong institutions that are tested, you know, over the ages, over centuries. United States didn't have a seamless election. You heard what happened, where some people refused to accept the victory of Joe Biden. So if U.S., with, you know, an established democracy that has lasted for more than 350 years, with strong institutions that have stood the test of time, had challenges conducting elections. How much less Nigeria that is so young? Our democracy is just 24 years. So those challenges were there. Logistical challenges. Where I voted, or in my community, we have about 75 or so polling units, and in Ugep, we had those challenges. Some of the polling units did not have materials. Some polling units, like where I voted as early as 8 o'clock.
So the
8:30 in the
personnel
morning.
were already around.
Yes, the officials were around, materials were around. But in some other polling units in the same Ugep, materials arrived late and people started voting at 2. So, but all said and done, those lapses were there, but that does not affect the integrity of the process.
It's almost as if you are giving INEC.
Yes, I am giving, because I have told you, I have witnessed
worst election,
1999 election. The military was in power, but results were still written.
Obol Okoi,
yes.
A lot of people would be listening to you and saying that we are actually ripe to have an elections that have integrity and that has credibility and that is seemingly fair. Because if we had, as a journalist, I mean, we interrogated INEC to know if there were going to be some of the issues that came. We asked questions and we got reassurances over and over. Why is it that when the private sector wants to do something in Nigeria, we don't give them the excuse and they do deliver? But when it comes to government agencies and institutions, we expect that, okay, the Nigerian democracy is quite young. And
well, I do not think that the private sector is seamless. I was in the private sector. I practiced law from 1991 to 2015 when I joined the government. So I know something. I know much about the private sector. It's not seamless.
However, just look at the banking. Just look at the banking sector, for instance.
For instance, they have been talking about cashless economy. And then one will expect that eventually, for the past 10 years or so, they have been talking about cashless economy. And
you're taking me back to the CBN, the government regulated agency. I'm talking about commercial banks. If you want an ATM card right now, Obon, you would go there to the bank right now within minutes and get the ATM
let me
very seamlessly. But we saw what happened before Nigerians could even get their voters card. I
was just trying to tell you that the banks also have their issues.
Of course they do.
Yes, I was trying to tell about the cashless economy, which they have, the central bank told us, or the banks, that they have introduced cashless, or they want to embrace cashless policy. But eventually, when that policy was introduced, what did you see? We had a lot of challenges. People couldn't withdraw money. The ATM cards were not going through. I have experienced it. You will transfer money to somebody, the person will not get the money. I can even show you. I had that experience. Transfer money to people.
Right.
I called them. Oh, I have sent money to your account, and then they will not get the money. Then I will go into my app and I will see that the transactions are pending. One of them last week pended for over 2 weeks before the person got that money. So I am not saying that the public sector is perfect. The private sector is not perfect too.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree with you. And nobody said
that
they
is why
are
we're
perfect.
talking about institutions.
Right.
An election is something that is very challenging. Not only in Nigeria, I have mentioned the US, I've mentioned India, all countries. So it's the logistical the requirements or challenges that you will be confronted with, you will be grappled with to conduct election where than 3 million people register to vote. It's not easy. It's the equivalent tax. So I can understand why we had those challenges, which I think we will improve with time. But I can tell you that the elections we just finished was transparent, was fair. I was there. All the parties were, had access, to do whatever they wanted. I can also say that it's a vast improvement from what we used to have in 2003. Look, I was a litigation lawyer. I did the case that led to the removal of Governor Lee Elimoke in 2007. And we went to the election tribunal to allege that there were no voting then we had 2,217 polling centers in Cross River State, polling units. And result sheets were not distributed to these polling units. Okay, if you don't distribute result sheets, automatically you have rigged the election.
Okay.
Yes, so that's what happened in 2007. And we went to court. I was a lawyer. And we challenged it, and we proved that result sheets were not distributed. The results were just written. And the Court of Appeal nullified the election of Governor Elimoke and ordered the conduct of a fresh election. Okay,
that's a good place to start.
Nowadays, you can't write results like that.
However, some people who would say that this logistical and technological and the many hiccups that was faced during the elections was enough to.
No, I don't think. You see,
I mean, we are also having from the other side. I mean, you can sound like this because you are of the APC. You are excited.
Not because I'm in APC.
You are excited. You have won, and so you give credit to this the process that brought about your win. But my question, Obol, is that for those who think that these challenges that was observed during the elections swayed the outcome of the elections, and that if we didn't have those challenges, maybe another person would have emerged governor. What would be your thoughts on that?
The people that complain, they are complaining about the same elections. Is a part of the elections they won. You know, in a lot of states they won, and APC lost even in its strongholds. They are not complaining about that. They are complaining where APC won. I mean, it's not fair.
I mean, your governor is also going to the tribunal because he lost. It's the same thing.
That means the process is fair. Okay, that all stakeholders, all political parties had a level playing ground. Otherwise, my governor should have been elected as a senator. But he's going to the tribunal. Okay, so the hitches that and hurdles that was faced, in your opinion, is not substantial enough. Exactly. Yeah, I'm happy you have used that. No, I'm just asking you if that's your stance. I'm happy you have used that word, because if you look at Section 134 of the Electoral Act, it provides that the election tribunal can only invalidate an election. It cannot invalidate an election where it is established that there was substantial compliance. Exactly. It didn't say strict compliance. Substantial. So it gives room for INEC, you know, the law is looking at anything that is done by human beings cannot be perfect. Naturally. You know, it's prone to human errors, human miscalculation. It's prone to a lot of things. Even technology too can fail you. You know, technology can fail you. So that is it. So if there is substantial compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, then that election will stand. It will not be nullified. So that is what the law says. So I also think politicians don't behave well. I'm a politician. Yes. The desperation and the desperation, they are making it look as if it's only from APC, PDP, even Labour that is trying to roll out to present itself as the third alternative, the third force. Labour also was doing some of these things we have been seeing, some of these things that are responsible for failure of democracy in Nigeria and in the past. Organizing violence, you know, hijacking electoral materials and so on. You have evidences of that? I have. I saw it in my community because, like, there was a candidate in the House of Reps, you know, in Labour, in Ugep, where I come from. Right. Yes, and it was very turbulent. Like, he resorted to emotions, you know, the normal thing politicians did if you don't have a message. Oh, I'm from Ugep. Ugep has gotten nothing, so I want to go to the House of Rest. We say no, that seat is for Abi Ayaka, and the Ugep man was a member of the House of Rest for 8 years. Right. Ayaka man Basewa was also in the House of Rest for 12 years. So for 20 years, Ayaka components of the federal consensus had the seat in his wrapper. So it's time for this Abi, yes, unless Obono, who is from Kreku area of Abi, had been there for just 4 years. So let him go for a second term. After him, we'll look at someone from Obono so that it will be fair. You know, because we are all from the same area, and if there's food, everybody should partake.
Of course.
So if the guy was so, you know, hard, and he had some money, so he was able to overheat the polity, you know, gave, and we saw a lot of things Labour supposedly did, you know, to win
power.
Okay.
But are you not concerned that we saw people, just like you have mentioned, I mean, we don't have evidences for that for viewers to make a decision on that. However, let's talk hypothetically. For those who are politicians, who heat up the polity, who during this electoral process had paid thugs, had indulged in vote buying and all those vices around electoral process.
Yes.
How can we ensure that they face punitive measures so that we will discourage such a terrible
I was looking at the provision of the law that deals with what we call vote buying. It is not actually called vote buying in the Electoral Act. It is
financial inducement,
undue influence.
Undue influence.
Yes, okay. And it is very, very difficult to prove if you want to prosecute somebody for undue influence, because the giver and the taker are guilty. Okay, if I go to your polling unit and offer money to you to vote for me, when you want to prosecute, you have to look for the person that gave money and the person that accepted. I hope you are getting me.
Very
so
well.
It will be very, very difficult to get the person that gives and the person that takes to come and give evidence in court.
There were some polling units where they were very brazen about
it's all the parties. I can confess all the parties are doing this. Yeah, and it is also has to do with the level of political development of our country. People I would not call it poverty. I always say there's something like poverty. Even if you are poor, you should have dignity.
Right.
My mother used to tell us, oh, if you are hungry, just lie downward with your belly, that the hunger will go. Nigerians do not have integrity. A lot of Nigerians, all they believe is money. So that is why politicians that have not accumulated money find it very difficult to win election. Because the people who always collect money, they will give me something, this is my turn. If you get into office, I will not reach you. So
did that play a role in the emergence of Prince Basio too?
Well, I cannot. I voted in Ugep in my polling unit. I was not going around Cross River State to ascertain that. But I think Prince Otu won fair and square. I have told you the factors that helped Prince Otu. He has an appeal. He's a very likable person. He was in the House of Reps for 8 years for Calabar Municipality, federal constituency. It's made up of Calabar, municipality, made up of Udukpani, Calabar municipality, and I think one other local government area. And he did very well, and then he went to the Senate, and for one term, and he did very well. People say he's very generous, he's very humble, he's very accessible. So he's liked, particularly in the southern part of Cross River State. So what helped him too? A lot of people from northern Cross River State and central, they were in sympathy with him because they wanted power to return to the southern senatorial district. Right. So that also helped him. So those other things we were saying that they may have happened, but I don't think that was what made him to win. Because the PDP people had more money.
They did?
Yeah, the person who sponsored the PDP candidate is a very powerful governor from the south side. I will not mention his name.
But can he be more powerful than an incumbent? I mean, we're talking about the governor.
We are talking in terms of access to resources.
Access to resources?
He's from a particular state in the south that is very rich, as compared to Cross River State. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. One of the former previous governors of that particular state, I will not mention his name, he told us in 2015, when we had issues with APC, and he was asked to resolve those issues. He was then in PDP, but he had just come to APC. And when we went to Port Harcourt, he invited us to tell us that we must support the person he wanted to be our state chairman. And when we were resisting, he said, look, keep quiet. Cross River State, the allocation from Abuja is just equivalent to 4 local government areas in my state.
Right.
Yes, he said so to our faces.
Okay. without saying too much, you have actually given us a good clue as to who was supporting the PDP.
Yeah.
While I cannot allay to that, I will move on now and go for a short break to talk about who Prince Basio. He's often referred to as the Sweet Prince.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk about his agenda for the new administration after this break. This is still Joy Asonye Live. We'll be right back. Welcome back from that. This is still Joy Asonye Live. We've been discussing with Obol Okoi, Obono-Obla. He is a chief spokesman, APC Cross River State Campaign Council, a legal practitioner, a traditional ruler, and so much more. We can go into all the things that you are, but it's been wonderful discussing the agenda for the new administration in Cross River State. Yeah. So you had talked about how endeared Cross Riverians are to Prince Basi Otu, but you tell me one thing that you think stood out in his action plan for the state.
Yes, this agenda is anchored on what he calls the people. That means his government will be driven by an agenda that will impact on the people, that will move the people forward. Because governance is all about welfare and security of the people.
Right.
So everything will be driven by that. So, and I find it very, very interesting. So that will impact on his approach to solving the problems in the educational sector, pension issues, environmental issues, everything about governance, to ensure that it will benefit the people, it will be government of the people and for the people, which democracy is all about.
Exactly.
Because you can have infrastructures, you can have the best economy, microeconomy, and all that as a government. But if we do not touch people, the people, then people will not be happy with you, and they may even organize an insurrection against their government. So every government must, use that theory or the doctrine that people's first, that the people must be taken care of before any other thing.
Good, that's a good one.
Yes.
However, Cross River State used to be known for the how hospitable it is. It used to be known for the tourist site. I know that it was trying to grow tourism in Cross River State. It was known as the cleanest state at the time. The greenery was beautiful. Agriculture was booming. Would you say that while concentrating on the people, we would lose this beautiful aspect of Cross River that the world used to know Cross River for?
That is just about people. If the environment is clean, if there's sanitation, and even now we are talking about climate change, and everything is about renewable energy, and green environment, climate-friendly industrialization, and so forth and so on. So what we are saying is also people-centered clean environment. Naturally, Cross Rivers are very clean people. So that is it. And tourism, fine. The previous government of Donald Duke tried to,
revamp that
promote
sector,
tourism, but I don't agree with that approach. I think if you want to promote tourism, you have to first address the issue of infrastructure, and you also have to address the issue of people having money in their pockets. Because if you do not have money, you will not want to go on vacation.
However, we were attracting people from all over the world.
Well, but it shouldn't be about just attracting people from outside the country.
That's some sort of revenue.
Outside the state. It should be also about the people of Cross River State participating being part of the process, being part of that industry. Because when tourists come, they have to make use of the local people.
Of course.
The money they spend has to trickle down to the local economy. Otherwise, it's just what I will call a small screen. Okay.
So how was it structured in such a way that we didn't see it trickle down to the local people? Because
and that is why it failed.
When an industry is booming,
yes.
very often, no matter how much, whether it's intentional or not, the ripple effect is that people around that community get to enjoy businesses.
And you'll see a lot of prosperity.
Prosperity in whatever area.
Let me give you the cattle ranch. I have been to the cattle ranch a lot of times, and when Donald was governor, and there was, this impression created outside Cross River State that tourism was booming, and if tourism was booming, it would trickle down to the local people living in the ranch. That never happened. So that means the boom was just artificial. Okay, it was artificial. It was a small screen, so that it wasn't there in the reality. So that is why I think when they became governor, he was not really interested in tourism because, as I said, maybe he had his own agenda. Every government has its own agenda, or he didn't continue. Okay, not even Imoke didn't continue with that because I'm sure he saw some defects. He saw some things that were not right about the so-called promotion or anchoring the Cross River State economy on tourism. Okay, but
what would you like to see so that we do not lose this beautiful tourist sites that the nature has already given?
Well, it's there. We can promote it. Because I would not want Cross River State to be a mono economy.
Of course not.
Depend on only one product.
Sector.
One sector. Let it be diversified.
No, I would just like to see what your plan would be to revamp.
We will revamp those things. We will promote tourism, but we will make sure that it is people-centered. We are not going to make it an elitist thing, as what Donald was trying to do, or rely on people from outside the country or the state.
How would that be achieved?
Because we will make sure that the local people buy into it. They will be part of the industry. Yeah, because even if you want to promote ecotourism, for instance, we have the largest rainforest in the West African sub-region.
Exactly.
And our rainforest is as rich as maybe the Amazon in Brazil in biodiversity, flora and fauna, all that. Yeah. So if we want to use the rainforest, the Cross River State rainforest, to promote tourism,
that alone is by itself,
tourism. We have to make sure that the local people, for instance, in Boki local government area, that has a large chunk of the rainforest, they should be involved. They can be involved in several ways. The local guides who will take the tourists to inside the forest. These local people will know the terrain.
Right.
You can't bring in outsiders. So when they take the tourists, they should have money, from a stipend, right. Or if whatever government is earning, there should be a sharing formula. The local people should benefit, and also the government should benefit. The private investors should benefit. So it should be a free traffic approach into ensuring that tourism is one of the drivers of the Cross River State economy.
Let's talk agriculture.
Yeah, well, Cross River State has always been agriculture. And agricultural states.
Exactly.
You remember when the present Cross River State used to be part of Eastern Nigeria. Eastern Nigeria is now made up of all the states in the south, or some states, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Bayelsa, River State. They were part of Eastern Nigeria. And then Abia, Imo, Anambra, Enugu, Ebonyi. They were one region known as Eastern Nigeria region of Nigeria. That was the situation until 1967 when states were created. The Eastern Nigeria was divided into 3 states. East Central State, which is now the present south, or the southeastern states.
Right.
Now. Then we used to have Southeastern State. That is the present Cross River State. in Akwa Ibom.
Right.
Yes, and then Rivers State, present Rivers State and Bayelsa. So those were that was Eastern Nigeria. So and in the policy, the agricultural policy of Eastern Nigeria government under Michael Okpara was to promote agriculture. So Cross River State was like the anchor, the hub of the agricultural development policies of the former Eastern region. So that is why we have a lot of estates, agricultural estates in Cross River State. Oban is there, Kararo is there, if you go to Boki is there, Nko, Roba, and so forth and so on. So that was it. So we can revamp that. And I think that was a mistake Donald made. Donald would have concentrated on agriculture, because agriculture is big, agriculture is large, and a lot of our people already, maybe about 70% of the population
are already practitioners
exactly,
in that sector.
Particularly in the Northern Senatorial District, Southern Senatorial District, and part of this, South. It is only some few local people in Calabar that don't really do agriculture, but a lot of other parts of the country, of the state, they do engage in agriculture. So we can use agriculture to create access to economic opportunities, also to create employment for young people, because agriculture absorbs a lot. For instance, in Nigeria, about 60% of Nigerians are, already in agriculture. Yeah, so it's the biggest industry in Nigeria.
So what's the plan for industrialization? So that we see mechanized
yes, the government wants to introduce
commercial
farming, mechanized farming.
Right.
And he wants to address the issue of lack of power. Because that is he told me that is one of the greatest problems confronting Cross River State. That if the issue of power is addressed, a lot of, we'll see a lot of growth in Cross River State. So he is going to concentrate on power supply, power distribution, and power, distribution and transmission. Generation, yes.
Well, it's a good thing the president,
happily, the constitution has been amended, has been altered. Power used to be the exclusive preserve of the federal government, because it was under the exclusive legislative list. Now it's now moved to concurrent list.
Exactly.
So the states can also
contribute to generation and distribution.
Exactly. So, and I see a lot of sense in what Senator 2 wants to do, that if we really want our people to have economic growth, to have employment, to young people to have access, we should address the issue of power. So I believe that is one of his areas he will start with. Because if you have power supplies to it, will also boost agriculture. Of course. It will also boost fishery. He said he also wants to concentrate on fishery. We have a lot of fish in Cross River State. The good fish, because Cross River State, the rivers we have in Cross River State are not salt,
they are fresh water.
They are fresh water, exactly. Unlike maybe Delta and River State. So we have a lot of fresh water, and you can use it to go into fisheries that will supply the entire West African sub-region.
Okay, so another aspect that a lot of people found concerning with a new development in Cross River State was this menace of cultism within the young people in the state. So what is the plan to ensure that young people's minds are redirected from that vice in the society?
Yes, and let me give you an insight historically. Even if you go to London or England, Oxford University, Harvard University. I did my master's in Liverpool. You have what we call fraternities. It's the fraternities are used in those established universities I have mentioned as mechanism for young people to socialize.
Right.
But in Nigeria, the fraternities we have in the universities have turned to cults. And it's not only in the university, even in the primary school, even in the secondary schools. And
that's quite concerning.
Yes.
For younger people in secondary school?
The politicians are also using cults to drive their political agendas. And it all started in 1999. where a lot of them were brought into government because they supported the person who was who was campaigning to be governor. And when you are campaigning to be governor, you have a lot of people who are following you, who are supporting you. So when you win, you are required to carry them along, appoint them into government, patronize them. So a lot of these cultists became big men. And when they became big men, they didn't leave the cult. And what is the message? You are a cultist, you are a young man, you didn't have access to money, just of a sudden you go into government. There's a lot of perks in government. There's a lot of leakages in government. There's a lot of corruption in government. So when these young people begin to have money, begin to have access, begin to be big men, they begin to crave for respect in society. Okay, and they became governors, senators, members of the House of Reps, bureaucrats in government. What is the message to young people?
And that it is viable to join cults.
And I can tell you that they were the people who were buying guns, who were buying weapons for these cultists. So during elections, what did they use the cultists for? They sent the cultists to go and snatch ballot boxes, use them to intimidate their opponents, intimidate the people, use them for vote suppression. If they know this is my stronghold, all I need to do is to organize talks, to go to that polling unit and attack that polling unit, cause confusion, drive the people away, drive INEC officials away, and maybe election will not take place there. Okay, or there will be no votes from that particular polling unit. It will somehow maybe affect their opponent, okay, in the collation of votes in the election. They do that. Even we still have those pockets of those things. We still have them. Like in one particular polling booth, not in my ward in Ugep, I was told that people went there, fired guns and all that, so there was confusion. Everybody ran away, so there was no election in that particular. So what is
let's leave history now. What's the Sweet Prince Basio 2 going to do to ensure that?
It's going to address that. The other day it made a very interesting point, and which you were trying to take me on before we started this program on capacity building,
right? And
I was saying that a lot of people were attracted into government, or were appointed into government by Governor Yade. But O2 says that he is going to discourage young people from seeing government appointment as the alpha and omega. And I like that. Young people should not see government appointment as the alpha and omega, that you can only make it in life if you are appointed into government. It shouldn't be. Young people should be in politics. They should also go into other areas, professions, like who you are. You are into journalism, television, radio journalism. We should have young people go into journalism, go into environment, accountancy, law, and so forth and so on. So we should not just have young people who want to have appointment in government.
Career politicians,
exactly.
like we've seen.
He says it's going to discourage that. By what? By creating an environment that will allow young people have access to economic opportunities, by creating prosperity, so that young people can make money in other areas, ICT, and that will erase the impression that it is only going to government that young people can make it in life.
If young people are not in government participating actively, how then would they get the mentorship that will get them to come to take over power when it's time for them?
Government has not been the largest employer of labor.
Government shouldn't be the largest employer of labor.
Government is a regulator. I'm not advocating that young people should not have access to government. I'm not advocating that young people should not be appointed. Young people should be appointed. Yes, every leader that is intelligent, that is visionary, must encourage young people, must employ young people, because they're not going to be there forever.
That's true.
You get old, naturally, you will retire. You can die. You know, so you need somebody who is competent to replace you. Otherwise, all your legacies will come to naught. So every leader must have an agenda for young people, to empower young people to take over your leadership. You know, but that is not to say that every young person should want to be in government and leave other important areas like journalism and so forth and so on. You are not in government, you are here and you are carving out a niche for yourself.
That's true. Obol-Okoi, let's talk about this awakening before I let you go, this awakening or this wave of participation by young people. Do you think it would, I want you now to look away from Cross River per se and look generally. Do you think it would get us to a point where Nigerians, the office of the citizen is so empowered that we understand as citizens that we hold the table, and if we want the table we can stand up.
Yes, you know, I started my career as a lawyer. I was one of the young lawyers or young people who fought against military dictatorship.
Right.
Yes, in the early 1990s. I was. And after the military left power, we were supposed to follow up and be the watchdog of the civil society, of government, police government, to ensure that the right things is done. And we didn't do that. So we gave room for us to have what we have seen in Nigeria, the lack of responsibility of the political class that is responsible for bad governance, that is responsible for poverty, that is responsible for us not making progress as a country.
Right.
And so I'm happy now that the young people are coming out, not only to participate, also to be watchdogs, put pressure on politicians or political leaders to sit up and do the right thing. So it is good for us. So I like what is happening. And we have seen it play out in the last election, where young people embraced Labour Party. And for the first time, Labour became a force we reckon with. Labour had been there since maybe older than even APC. But Labour had never made an impression in any election. It was like a refuge for failed politicians. If you don't get ticket in the leading parties, PDP or APC, you go to Labour. You know, so that was how Labour was. But we have seen how Labour has transformed itself because of the young people embracing, you know, Labour. Why were they embracing Labour? They were disenchanted with APC. They were also disenchanted with PDP. And I can tell you that even APC members and PDP members supported Labour. And that is why you see Labour not doing very well in the governorship election, because a lot of young people in APC, in PDP, who have supported their presidential candidate, they went back to their old platforms. And so what I'm saying is, if there's consistency, if Labour is able to maintain that tradition, you know, then we can see a third force in Nigerian politics evolving, and elections will never be the same again in Nigeria. Nobody will take anybody for granted again, because this time around there was a lot of campaign work
was done.
Work, yes, I was involved. We were going from door to door. Even after we are done with the campaigns, we had to do what we call door-to-door campaigns in our different wards, to go to the people and talk to them. You know, I wanted to go to the Senate. I wanted to get a ticket in the APC. And when I was campaigning, I saw that a lot of people from my district, Central District, did not know who was representing me in the Senate. Yes, like Victor November, who was there for 12 years. A lot of people they have not seen him. Because what we used to have, these people were not going to the people. You know, if you are giving ticket, if you are endorsed by the powers that be, then that was it. It's likely that you are going to win, whether or not you go to the people. But it has changed for the last election. So it's a good thing for Nigeria.
It is.
That is why I told you before that our democracy is maturing.
Exactly.
Yes.
However, are we there yet when it comes to, or rather, would you see an administration moving forward, this new administration, where political actors will be recalled by the people, petitions will be rife?
Well, that,
I mean,
that,
if you're
that
not
is
doing
left for
well,
the people.
are they aware enough?
Well, there has to be the awareness. We have to create the awareness. That's like what we are doing. You are creating awareness. You are educating the people.
Exactly.
You are enlightening the people. If the people are exposed, if they know their rights, then they will know that anybody who is representing them in the Senate or House of Reps or House of Assembly or as a councillor who does not work in consonance with the aspirations of the people can be taken back, can be recalled from office. So, but we need to create a lot of awareness. And I think the media has a role to play.
Right. Okay, Obol, Okoi, Obono-Obla, thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you, Joy.
Right. He is the chief spokesman, APC Cross River State Campaign Council. He's a legal practitioner and traditional ruler. We've been discussing the new agenda for Cross River State. My name is Joy Asonye. Thank you for being part of the program. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Have a wonderful evening.